Horrifying YouTuber situation. This content has been covered like about a couple months ago. It's gone on my radar recently, so I finally have time to watch it. So if you guys don't know, Zav Girl is a true crime YouTuber, is being slammed for selling autopsy photos of a murder Colorado boy on her Patreon, which is crazy because again, what gave you the permission to not only download the content. Uh, sure, you may download the content for your own situation to talk about it, but then to sell it and make profit out of it is a concerning action. Like, what gave you the permission to sell these things on Patreon?
When you thought you'd finally seen all of the degeneracy disgusting YouTubers could ever cook up in their cursed kitchen, you get jump scared by a new outrageous, heinous act committed by a YouTuber. In the words of Qui-Gon Jinn, there's always a bigger fish, and in this case, that fish is evil. There is a new evil action that a YouTuber just proudly engaged in that I just learned about today. This comes from the true.
And I'm learning, and like I'm now finally watching the video properly because it's from a quick cursory Google like look. This is bad. I will probably look up the updates about it later, but for now, all I know is that she sold content regarding an autopsy on her Patreon, and it is bad.
Crime community. This comes from a YouTuber named Zavgirl, who charged people on Patreon.
True crime YouTuber slammed for charging to see autopsy photos of child, and it's concerning because my partner watches a lot of true crime, but even that, like this person, she watches Stephanie Sue, which does a lot of mukbangs or baking a mystery, and I have my concerns about it, but nowhere near Zavgirl. This is disappointing.
Patreon for access to autopsy photos of a murdered 11-year-old boy. That is some morally demented shit right there that would have a demon cringing. Now, Zavgirl is refuting some of these claims and even released her own apology video.
My apologies to the Gannon family. Yeah, apologize, but also don't like remove the content.
Explaining her side of the situation.
You don't. There's no explanation required to like, hey, this is not your family. You don't get to sell these photos. Like, this is not your family. Why are you trying to monetize on like the autopsies? You can spread news about it, and that's the most you can make on their family. But this is a family affair with the family censored photos.
A quick side note, apology videos have become 2023's Harlem Shake. This is a...
Because this is, again, like, this is way before the Colleen thing, and there's a bunch of, and there's, like, other there's, like, other developers that are making apology videos, like, Overwatch apologies now. Colleen, is the most recent one.
Massive flood of apology videos that...
And also iShowSpeed when he didn't even apologize on his own platform, and on top of that, the iShowSpeed situation where he showed his privates on stream, he didn't apologize for it. It just got removed, and he's not struck for it.
That we've gotten in just like the last month. If YouTuber apologies were a stock option and you invested back in January of this year, you'd be a millionaire by now. It is crazy just how often this is happening. Now, her apology video might not feature a ukulele, but it's still just
right.
But before really diving into that, I want to give a general overview of the situation. Zavgirl is a true crime YouTuber, and she had just recently dove into the case of an 11-year-old.
A missing boy was found shot and stabbed in a suitcase 1,400 miles from home. Stepmother says a psychopath killed him. Couldn't keep her story straight about when he was last seen. She admits to killing him, not taking responsibility. Oh, God, that's a problem. I hope she's in jail. I hope she's locked away for a long time.
Boy named Gannon, who was brutally murdered by his stepmother, Letitia Stouch, and it is just unbelievably disturbing.
'Cause like what? there is a certain psychology that leads people to just do these killings. Like it's as tragic as that incident in Korea where a Korean like where a lady posed as a student to be tutored and killed their tutor, buried their body, and then got arrested because the cab driver who drove her called in the police and she did it to know what it felt like and it felt horrible. No way. How could I not believe that killing someone would be a horrific like incident? And on top of that, she got motivation from watching horror content and film where that has to be taken at a fat pound of salt, where you should not find that as motivation. But if you see something as that and it stirs certain thoughts, police yourself. God.
The mother is on trial now, which I imagine is why Zav Girl wanted to start talking about it since it's now unfolding in court. I don't really want to get into the specifics of the case. Basically, the stepmother tortured the son, stabbed him a ton of times, shot him in the head, and then stuffed his corpse into a suitcase and started to pretend like he was missing. So she told the authorities all kinds of different stories, like he didn't come home after going to a friend's house. Then she even came up with some kind of fucking wild narrative about how someone that was fixing her carpet ended up raping her and then abducting the
What?
child. So she got caught lying a ton of times.
That's
Eventually,
she really couldn't
investigators
keep her
found
story
blood on
straight.
her shoes and in her car, as well as in Gannon's room, and then her DNA on a gun that was linked to Gannon's death.
Of course,
So
but of course,
they caught her and
which is
realized
good.
that she was responsible for Gannon's murder. So Zav Girl followed the Letitia Stouch case and said that she had recently made an official records request, which is something I didn't even know you could do as just like an average Joe Schmo. I had no fucking clue that any goofball goober could just ask and get sensitive files like she received.
Because again, like with those sensitive with that type of sensitive information, I would have the assumption that someone with high clearance would be access to that. And even then, you shouldn't have access to that because that is information for the family. This is not your family to he is not a family member for you to get autopsy photos of. And regardless of like intentions, if you were to do it for a school purpose or a school study, no. They have other things that you can autopsy and look at for autopsy. You don't go into a recent murder and get photos for that for studying. God.
I guess I'm just very naive to what you're able to ask for, but I feel like those kind of things should only be made accessible to the victim's family as well as like official sources, not just YouTubers, but that's just me, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking as a god.
Because again, like what would like if I were to get into the true crime YouTuber like field, it's better to have just gone into that field with a sense of giving cliff notes, spark notes about the situation, not just, hey, I want these photos and I want to really look at it. I really want to look at these photos of autopsies. To then, that gives you no value other than like your own perversion, I guess.
Damn Neanderthal who I guess doesn't understand how things work here. That was surprising, but she said that she had made an official records request and then received all of these.
Again, like for an official record request, there has to be like more security around who gets access to these photos because these are very sensitive, very graphic photos. I don't know what is required to have the permission to get these. Also, who gave you permission to think that was okay for you to get those autopsy photos?
Documents, which she posted on her Patreon. I'll go ahead and play this clip from her apology video where she tries to explain that this is a little misleading. She wasn't just charging for autopsy photos, she was actually charging for everything, which included autopsy photos.
I have followed the Letitia Stout case closely, and it was actually during the trial that I made the official records request. and it was in El Paso County, Colorado.
Of
I
course.
requested all the video, audio, and written records.
Why?
I made no request for autopsy photos.
Don't wait. Hold on.
I
Wait.
wanted
What?
all. I made no request. I requested all the video, audio, and written records.
Okay. Video requested for video. Requested for
I made
written.
no request for autopsy photos.
Again, like that is a damning statement because if you realized it, you could have just done everything to remove those photos from your possession. You already had film, you already had written documents and audio files regarding the case. Once you had these photos, you had every opportunity from the moment receiving it to uploading it to just remove it out of your life. Wash your hands from this poop mess that you like found, this garbage that this tainted taboo you had in your hand, and rather than deleting it and washing your hands, bleaching your hands, taking a vacation from the situation, you decided to like, oh, let's upload it, put it on Patreon. If you want to see what I've seen, go on Patreon. Again, you are monetized. The moment you put any content that you receive that stuff from, you should not be monetizing it already. Like, the purpose of the Patreon is to support the creator. But if you put a paywall behind that, you are henceforth monetizing whatever you upload.
I wanted all trial records, but my main interests were interviews with Letitia. The autopsy photos just happened to be in the file.
Just happened to be there.
Not exactly the slam dunk you think it is here. You still did charge for all of this sensitive information, which does include the autopsy photographs, as you mentioned. I'll be extremely charitable here. I'll really throw you a bone and assume you're telling the truth that you didn't specifically seek out autopsy photos.
And even then, you had every opportunity to delete, shred, remove that content from your folder, from your package.
You still got them, and you still published them, and you still charged for them on your Patreon. They were a component of what you were charging your audience for. You legitimately set up basically a booth in your Patreon where you could go in and look at photos of a dead child and learn everything that happened to him with the murder. How do you not recognize how incredibly fucked up that is?
Because why upload? Why make it an option for people to look at it? It's not your family member. It's not your case. It's you asked for everything but the photos, and then you decide to make up the expenses to get those photos and audio by making it accessible through Patreon, and it is considered a paywall. Hey, I paid this amount of money to get the opportunity to look at this folder of pictures. Disgusting.
That is bafflingly evil. I understand desensitization is a real thing, right? Doctors get desensitized to gore and blood. Gamers get desensitized to being insulted in video games over Xbox Live. I get it, but I just don't understand how someone could ever reach the point where they're desensitized to the brutal murder of a child, and so desensitized, in fact, that you're going to charge people access to it. Other depraved fucking people that for some reason want to pay money to see photos of a dead child. So again,
it's almost forbidden OnlyFans, because these are photos that are for medical purposes. These are photos for legal purposes. And I will continue to harp on this. You had every opportunity to get rid of this, but you decided to keep it on your Patreon behind a paywall. And then you're no better than Blizzard, who hid gambling behind a skill check, which then gave you the opportunity to do things, which is predatory.
Even if your primary goal wasn't to get autopsy photographs, you did receive them, you did publish them, and you charged an admission fee for people to look at them. You were making money off of showing people someone's dead child. how can you not recognize the complete absence of humanity and complete lack of empathy? She was also just
Hey y'all, so I got a bunch of uh Letitia Stoush cases I'm gonna be releasing. So there's some new video information, and also some video that played in court, but the quality wasn't the best. So I have the originals. It's where it's not a recording of a crooked TV screen. If you're interested in keeping your eyes out for my videos, I'm gonna get that as fast as I can. There are some that might take me longer because, for instance, all the text messages I like to read them for you, so those will take me some time. But I'm gonna try to get them out as soon as I can. Take your time with it then. Don't just make it content. There's some new videos and information. Okay. And also some videos that they played in court, but the quality wasn't the best. So I have them where it's not a recording of a crooked TV screen.
giddy with excitement that she got her hands on all of this in the first place. Here's a community post that she hasn't deleted. Well, and I think she has deleted other ones, but I'll get to that in a moment. But she said, "Hey, you all, so I got a bunch of videos they played in court, but the quality wasn't the... If you're interested, keep longer because, for instance, all the text message I can." Just a quick side note, she sucks fuck at writing. I guess she just...
Yeah, she has... I don't know how she passed preschool, but the writing comp of this paragraph was very disorienting. I wish she had an AI write it out for her because that wasn't comprehensive. That was hard to read. I had questions when I was reading it, like, is there something that I'm missing? Is there a context that I'm missing? But no, she wrote that out as a full adult who went through school and passed all the red flags, passed all of the gates required.
doesn't believe in grammar. There wasn't a single comma to be had in this entire statement. It made it very difficult to read. It was just
One continuous run-on sentence.
long, random, vomited, evil thought that she put on the community tab here with random capitalization of random words. I guess, you know, her pinky gets really excited and just slaps the shift key down mid-sentence sometimes to capitalize a random fucking word. But anyway, you can see the excitement here in this post. She is elated, celebrating like it's Christmas now that she has these records, because she's going to get a lot of content out of the records for her Patreon and for her YouTube audience as well. She was fucking roaring to go. And then she did. And she faced backlash even from her own community. So in the article I read about this situation, they referenced some of her community posts that I can no longer find. I don't know if they were deleted. So I just wanted to put that out there that these are no longer on her channel.
Address the criticism in a lengthy statement posted in the community of her channel. Reality of the situation that different people feel different about this. Of course, this is about a child and a family with a child. Something making a video including it. Some people generally think making a video including the autopsy photos is bad, and I respect their opinions and feelings. Respect their opinion. Why is it an option to include these photos where, oh, I'm going to put these photos here, it's censored, but if you want to see the fully uncensored video, go to patreon.com/Zavgirl. That is not a promotion, and that is far from... I don't know what gave her permission. Is she so... She is definitely desensitized from these kind of subjects, but the gall that she has to make it the thing, it's for them, it's not about respecting the opinion of, like, it's about you shouldn't make that available to begin with. Other people like myself think that the autopsy photos and the coroner discussing them as interesting and informative and are able to view that as forms... What? Other people, like myself, don't insert yourself, number one. Other people think of autopsy photos and the coroner discussing, explaining them as interesting, informative, and are able to view it as more of scientific detached. Not everyone's going to look at this in a more scientific detached way. It's just one of the things where it depends on the person. You are very detached. You yourself are detached from the content. And I'm concerned because if you're going to make a YouTube video about true crime, you have to consider the general population. Imagine what parent would censor from their children. And so to think, you have to spark note it to the utmost bare minimum, because these discussions is very graphic, I can assume. But again, to make it publicly available and to think that everyone thinks the way you do is a sign of insanity. If you think people think the way you do and don't come around to the idea that they will not, you have to make it digestible for the public. And this is not very digestible.
But according to this article, she addressed the criticism in a lengthy statement. Simply think, making like myself, they're able to view it as girl in a scientific, detached way. It's just one of those things where it depends on the person. Hey, Zav girl, let me hit you with some cold water real quick. If you're the kind of person that looks at photos of a dead child and goes over the details on how they were brutally tortured and
is fascinated by the way they're tortured,
and think to yourself, this is good content. This content's a fucking banger. This is going on Patreon right now. I'm gonna get fucking paid for this shit. Let's go. Then you're a bad person.
You're deranged, because again, it's a situation where why do you think you are of a small clique of people? Even then, there is, case in point, there is even a small community of fetishes that don't publicly announce it, or they don't share it to the world like it's the gospel, and you're doing it just that with a admission fee of a Patreon tier.
That's the kind of person you are. You are an evil piece of shit person is what you are. This isn't like some kind of debatable position. This isn't a hot take for me. I don't know how she even thinks that there is a large number of people that think like her, where, oh, we actually just look at photos of dead, murdered children in a scientific, analytical way, as we could learn from this. Like, oh.
Even then, like, that, even though scientifically curated content, that is extremely watered down and extremely curated. Like, God.
Look at that. Stabbed 1,000 times. This is very interesting. I'm giving that an updoot, and here's $5. Thanks for showing me this. That's not common. She literally dropped a, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah, I respect your opinion. Like, hold on. So you're not apologizing. You're just, I respect it, but I don't agree with you. Like, what makes you think you have the right to do this? Again, like, I'm running through this. Like, I had time to marinate from this, but again, like, I'm just trying to figure it out now.
Over this whole situation in her community tab, I guess. That blows my mind. That blows my mind. And this is something I've always wondered about from the true crimes community, if there's ever any actual empathy for victims from channels like hers. I know that there are some true crime productions that actually aim to do good by trying to solve cold cases, and I think there is like a legitimate effort to do something there that's more than just exploitative, whereas what Zavgirl does here is legitimately just exploitative.
And that is kind of like a gray line. There is a gray line between true crime creators, because some of them, like, there is definitely a question on whether or not people who cover true crime have that empathy to curate the content to make it digestible or understanding, versus, hey, I like this, let me tell you how I feel about this, and be uncensored by the breakdown of the content.
She is trying to capitalize off the trauma of this family and make money from it for her true crime channel.
YouTube.
I actually don't know how she sleeps at night. According to the article,
denied that the autopsy footage. Why is genitalia a subject matter? Also denied that the autopsy footage she distributed showed genitalia. I understand some of you have issues with me charging my money on Patreon for videos. You shouldn't even allow that content on. Even if you allow some of the footage you received as a court order, there are some things there's some common things you shouldn't allow unless you're that kind of Patreon. Hey, even in that case, some sensitive stuff should be on OnlyFans. If you're a fan of true crime, look it up on OnlyFans. It's not only porn. You can look up some sensitive information. If I was charging money, if I was charging money for the autopsy files alone, or something like that, I think I'd see your point. Yo, the fact that your page has this, the only way to access this is by subscribing on Patreon. That it's in itself is you're charging the money. If you weren't gonna charge money for the autopsy files, you would not upload it to begin with. But in this case, I spent a lot of time and worked hard putting together a video, lining up the coroner's autopsy audio and description along with the appropriate parts of the photos. She is describing and editing it together to try and make it as informative as possible for the viewer. That is what I am charging for, which I would hope you can agree is understandable. Not really. Okay, because you're giving this a play-by-play like it's Sunday night football. And I can understand you're taking time to just curate a video that makes the coroner audio and coroner descriptions and the photos digestible. But given the play-by-play this is not how you do it. This is not how you do it.
The community post continued, and it went into her denying that the autopsy footage that she distributed money on my page. That I think I'd see your point. Descriptions, along with the appropriate, as informative as possible. Zav girl, I don't agree. Charging for
Yeah.
which I would hope you can agree is understandable.
No.
Zav girl, I don't agree. It's not understandable. I completely disagree. Basically,
I think Zavgirl needs help. If we had a BetterHelp ad, this would be probably the best place to plug a BetterHelp ad, because there's no way that I can save her. There's no way Charlie will save her. There's a large community that won't save her from this, and she can't save herself. So she should look for some help.
basically what you're describing here is you made an autopsy photo montage where you
Yes.
synced up the photos of a murdered child's body with the coroner's explanation on how they were murdered and died.
And no one, and like, if you want that for studying, there are other ways to do it. You can go to school and they have school curated content. And if you want the juicy bits, go on Patreon at your own private time. Go to OnlyFans about it in your private time. Don't make videos about it saying, hey, I'm going to make this free. I'm going to make this a horrific incident digestible, and the only way to see it is through my Patreon that has a paywall. You're making income from this.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Exactly.
Like, I don't know why you think that that's effort worthy of compensation, or why you think that what you did is a good thing. This isn't informative by any means.
It's not informative if the person who's describing it is the informative person. You're only making what's digestible mush. It's not going to go down like water. It's not going to go down like a protein shake. It's going to go down like garbage.
You're not like a documentary filmmaker that's paying respect to the victims' families or anything like that.
Even then, like, for you to get, I don't know even how you got permission to get these sensitive video and photos about a child that's not yours. I doubt the family was aware that the content was made available for YouTubers. I don't think a family member would even want that available as easily accessible to YouTubers as the general public can.
This is the most disrespectful shit ever. Like this is beyond reprehensible. If you were aiming to create an informative video about the situation, why do you need the photos to accompany it? You could just have the coroner's explanation of it. You don't need the photos there.
Even then, like, you can just you don't need to provide photos. You can like describe it in the most curated way to not get destroyed by the YouTube algorithm. But sure.
Clearly, the reason you had them there is because you knew people would maybe pay for morbid curiosity to see a murdered child, because there are some sick fucks in the world.
There are sick people.
That was clearly the intention behind having the photos there. Like, there's no other argument you can make for it, because again, if you wanted to just make a piece of content that was supposed to outline the horrors of this case, you could do that without showcasing the child's body.
Yes, you don't even need the photos to be accessible. You don't need the video to be accessible. You just have to be charismatic in describing it, and you don't need, hey, a situation where, hey, if you go to Patreon and pay this tier, you can bypass me and look at this content out of your own morbid curiosity, but also that means that whoever pays for my Patreon is also a disgusting person too, who wants to look at this stuff.
That's basic common sense. But I want to make it clear, even if you never published the autopsy photos, I still think what you did was exploitative and disrespectful to the victim and the victim's family. What you did here is not just provide details to a case to try and educate people on something horrible that happened or anything. You turned this case into a spectacle for your community to give you impressions and engagement on. The goal of what you did here does not seem to be information or anything like that. The goal from you seems to have tried to be like a piece of entertainment about it, which is so fucked up.
I didn't think any of the images were new. These photos were already public.
Public, yes. It is public, but even with it being public, there are still barriers from people to go look at it. You're disappointing.
Although the video I put together with the coroner's voice was my own creation.
Of course, but again, this is...
I chose to put the video on Patreon because of the sensitive nature of the evidence.
But even then, you still made it available, and you try to protect that content by, hey, you want to watch it, but I don't think you'll pay $5. I don't think you'll pay $10 to be in this tier to look at this content. This is me protecting this is me protecting you by having a paywall, and people won't pay for that, right? They need money for their mobile game addictions, right? No.
The paywall meant added security.
No, that doesn't. That gave further incentive for you to get. That's how you monetize it.
Naively.
That's the same way as museums. Museums monetize their content by making a ticket out of it. The item is free to look at. You can even see pictures of people making pictures of these content, but still, you went the full 6 feet under for this content.
Thought they wouldn't be made public.
Well, that was certainly a dumb thing to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Putting it on Patreon is still making the information public. You took private information and you published it on Patreon. A paywall does not mean that it's still private.
A paywall means you can watch this if you pay money. That's the same. It's almost the same kind of logic of, hey, if I just walked right behind that barista desk and you can technically get free content from a Starbucks by walking past the paywall and just getting it, but then you can be arrested.
It is easily accessible to anyone that wants to fork over a few doubloons to access it. Thus, the information is no longer private.
The video I created with a voice from the coroner wasn't meant to be shared outside of Patreon, and I chose not to put the photos on YouTube, a public forum.
Patreon is still a public forum. OnlyFans is a public forum. Fansly is a public forum, and they have paid paywalls, but it's still public with a ticket.
The views would have allowed me to make more money, and the photos would be seen by more people. Where the views would have allowed me to make with a voice from the coroner wasn't meant to be shared outside of Patreon, and I chose not to put the photos on YouTube, a public forum, where the views would have allowed me to make more money, and the photos would be seen by more people.
Wow, you're such a saint. What an angel. She took a pay cut by only posting the murdered child autopsy photos on Patreon behind a paywall there, instead of posting it on YouTube.
You're still posting it.
You
are still posting it
to begin with. What the fuck? What are you talking about here?
Because the video was placed behind a paywall, rumors about the images not being blurred or being different than what was shown in trial started to surface. No photos shows genitalia. I have made no
Why are you focused on genitalia? Who wants who wants photos of genitalia? And if you do, you're disgusting. But also, and also, the fact that these photos are available, you made them available by going on to Patreon. Shoot, there's people who's posting content onto Twitter that were originally meant for one platform, and people repost it for the views, and that's how you get it spread.
jokes about the photos. I don't even cuss on my channel.
That's
I
not the
would never
point.
allow derogatory remarks about a victim.
Then don't provide content through Patreon, which is public still.
I realize my intentions were not communicated well.
This is deflecting. It's not your intentions that people were questioning. The entire act of what you did here is a problem. It is
The problem is you made private content available, and it's a problem. Regardless of whether it's as bad as the I Show Speed situation, where I didn't know about it until people were covering it, and even when that was going on, I was unfortunate to see the footage because of Twitter. I somehow went through. I saw the incident where I Show Speed was like being crass about Chica, and he did his thing. And when his junk flew out, I will never unsee that again, because even though it was taken down, everybody had the capacity to immediately like share it. Like, even if you put a paywall, people will not respect your decision of people will not respect you, and they will share it for their own convenience, whether or not your intentions were there. If you had the intentions to protect the family, you don't upload content that would show things or be concerning.
is disgusting what you did. It has nothing to do with you did here is a problem. It is disgusting what you did. It has nothing to do with your motivation behind doing it. The fact you did it at all is the problem. There's no intention that justifies it. There just isn't. There isn't an argument you can make that will, in any way, shape, or form, make it seem reasonable to have published the autopsy photos in any capacity, or made all of those private documents accessible through anyone that pays directly to you for the information. And again, even if you did make all of this publicly accessible without a paywall, releasing all of this kind of shit, the autopsy photos, coroner stuff, all of that, I still think it is exploitative because
Yes, because it's not your content to share, but you think, my fans who are hearing me talk about this, they must want to know the behind the scenes footage. They might want to know the uncensored content. I will make it public by putting on a Patreon. But wait, Patreon, I need a way to fund my livelihoods. I need a way to like have the fans help me. How do I do that? Oh, Patreon is the way. By putting a paywall behind content that you should not have made public to begin with, you are the problem. Not the people that are looking at it, but you are the problem. You're the problem for uploading this content, not the people who look at you. For people to take even a glance at you and see this, then people complain about you. People aren't complaining about you because of the video. People are complaining about you because of what you uploaded, and you had every chance to stop that.
you are capitalizing off of it. I still think there wasn't really a good explanation for anything you did in this whole situation. So it has nothing to do with your fucking intentions. There is nothing you could have done that would have made this understandable in any capacity. So, yeah. She then goes on to say that her Patreon did get shut down for it, which
Of course,
sounds
good
about
job.
right. That makes a lot of sense considering what she posted on
Yes.
there. And yeah, that's kind of the whole situation in a nutshell. That's about it.
And I have every problem with this lady. Zav girl, if you hear about this, I'll be another person in the bucket that says, what is going on? Who hurts you to make you believe that you can just publish this content and make people become aware of this content? Content creators are responsible for a few things. People are responsible for what they say. People will, regardless of if you are a YouTuber, actually, every human is responsible from what they upload to what they say, and even to the people who upload free nude content on Twitter or any other platform on Fansly, OnlyFans, they are responsible for that, and then they sit with that responsibility. However, you are deflecting every time. You're deflecting your controversy from your community to say, hey, it's not my fault that you are understanding what I'm trying to say. I'm just making a video that celebrates the scientific nuances of a child unalived in this certain way. And I have these photos and I have these videos that I uploaded, but it's not on YouTube. You go to Patreon, that's allowed to do that, and you can look it up there. But wait, Patreon asks for money. I'm protecting the content with a paywall that is easily jumped. It's the equivalent of a 2-inch fence where you did the bare minimum and it will stub people's foot. But a lot of people will go over it anyways because you did not do the bare minimum of not providing it. But yeah, that's just what I think. And again, what would I know? I'm just someone reacting to Moist Critical. What would I know, right?